A lot of people are not doing so good right now, huh? Think that you could say that for any time in history, and you'd have a lot of people that'll say, "I agree," and then you'd have a lot of other people that would say, "I disagree," because they're probably not doing so bad. I'm making an axe here, and if you're one of those people that feels like there's a lot of people not doing so well, just take a focus on this. Just don't really worry about anything else. Just check out what I'm doing. Sighting down this handle to make sure that what I'm doing is straight because I don't I don't write a center line. This is how you write a center line. You just kind of eye it up, keep your finger where you think is the center, and then you just trace down the handle. But the thing about that is, if this side isn't straight, it's not going to register straight. But I'll give you the gist of it. Let's see. I think this is the center line right here. That's how you just do a quick estimation of a center line. I'd say that this heartwood is a little thicker, but that's just a little demonstration for the sad boys and gals out there. You could be you could be feeling good and watch this. You're not excluded. But I just feel like, you don't need the help. You don't need the distraction. And maybe a distraction is not what you need. Maybe you're doing too much thinking, though. There's just so many possibilities when you're not feeling too good or things are really going wrong. Sad people aren't just sad because of a chemical imbalance. Sometimes it's a physical imbalance with what their expectations for their life is. Now, I'm not saying that you have to accept the worst circumstances, but I do believe in a little bit of stoicism in hard times. I don't want to victimize myself. I want to I want to vulcanize myself, I want to make myself stronger, put a little sulfur in there, a little bit of rubber, heat it up, vulcanization. So this is a little thick, but we're going to continue. I just want to get this eye sorted out a little bit. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to go slow because I don't want to make this thing off. One thing you could do if you're doing this by eye is don't go all the way down with what you're removing. So just remove enough material here, and then you can kind of tilt the axe how you need to if you messed up. So let's hog away some material here. My only problem is I can't see my outline. Whoops. All right. Okay, let's go to the other side. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of balance. If you think you took a lot of material off this side, go ahead and switch. Go to the other side. Take a little bit more material off than you're comfortable with on this side. Eventually you get good enough where your guesses don't become failures. So what's happening there is if I were to cut on this angle, it would tear out because the growth rings are only supported on this side. All right. Did a lot of material removal over there. And it's relatively even. There's a little bit of an angle, that's why this looks funky, but it's just tilted on the end grain here. Hope you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, let's do a little more on the other side. Let me just check if this is in. Ooh, that's close to not being in focus. Let's fix this. That's better. Just a little off-camera fixing. So back to being down. Back to being real sad. And it doesn't. I guess really what matter if your circumstances are all absolutely terrible. You know, don't. I feel like you don't have to lie yourself into being grateful. You don't have to say I'm grateful for this, but maybe you do focus on the things that make you happy. I'm not saying be grateful for things because that's real tough for some people in certain times. It's kind of like trying to convert someone to a religion after a death in their family or a great loss. That's the wrong time, maybe. Now, some people would say that's exactly the right time. But if you were trying to do that to me, I would get pretty angry if you're trying to convince me there's some higher power that killed my best friend or something, Not that I have anything against religions. I try to be extremely respectful compared to how I was when I was a little kid about serious topics. Not that I was going around doing anything to religious people, but when I was I was a big comedy guy, and so I didn't think of things the same way as I do now when I'm a little older. Ooh, there's a little crack at the back here. That'll come out because it's very thick. All right, now let's switch sides again. So yeah, if you're really having a tough time, I mean, what helps me when I'm having a tough time is really focusing on my passion. But sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just can't even move. So I go to the basics, and if you can get yourself a hot, healthy meal, that might help you out. That might give you a little something. Now, if you're sad because you overeat hot, healthy meals, I'm sorry, but there's nothing for you anymore. I'm just kidding. This life has betrayed you. I got a little experience with, but really, I'm betraying myself. When you get fat, you're betraying yourself. When you become a drug addict, you betray yourself. Now, of course, people will say things about how addiction is a disease, and it's an ailment. I don't know if I would call it a disease per se, but I get why people say that because it's just so tough. It's just so tough to manage a drug addiction if you're really in the throes of it. I've seen people that, and society doesn't always help you when you're a drug addict. I saw someone who was on methadone, which is what you're supposed to do if you're a heroin addict. And I've learned recently about how bad methadone is, but I saw it back then. This was more than a decade ago. This young man couldn't afford his methadone anymore, and he had withdrawals for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, probably longer because he left after 3 weeks. I didn't know what happened after those 3 weeks, and boy, was it terrible. The guy couldn't eat anything. He was on an apple juice diet. And if you know anything about major drug addicts, boy, do they like sweets, don't they? I think that we should talk about the darkest parts of our society a little more. Maybe you think that this gets talked about a lot. I don't think so. I don't think in a zoomed out perspective it does. Because there's just so many people that are turning to drug and drink, which drink is drug. I'm sorry, but drinking is a drug. Alcohol is a drug. It's a depressant, which that's how I react to it. I really react to alcohol now it just makes me not depressed in a clinical way, but it depresses me in the I just kind of sink into a couch sort of thing. So I don't really drink, and I'm not an alcoholic or anything. I never had a problem with alcohol. But maybe when I was real young, I used to binge a little, but I really didn't have a problem. It was just when I would party, the only way for me to be comfortable is to act an absolute fool. So, yeah. But in the zoomed out perspective about drug addiction, you know, life is and can be the most difficult thing, and not everybody has the systems to deal with this society. And so, you know, I wouldn't even call it an easy way out. It's not an easy way out to be an addict. It's a job. Being an addict is a job. You know, you got to work. You got to either lie, steal, or make money every day to feed your addiction. And then you wake up in 10 years and you're like, holy shit, where did it all go? What have I done to this life I have, this only life I get? It's brutal. And a lot of people, you know, will wake up in 10 years and that'll happen to them. Or you know, even longer, or they don't wake up. Unfortunately, before they even realize what's happening, they don't wake up. It's over. And, you know, you'll hear people say things about like, well, you got to do it for the people that couldn't do it. I don't know about that, because like every individual is, you know, every person's an individual. And, you know, that's sort of that whole like, because I'm black, I feel bad about what people are doing. If someone's committing a crime that's black, it looks bad on me. I don't think we should think like that. I think we're all our own people. Okay. Now, obviously, if you feel a closeness to a person just because of these, honestly, useless characteristics, like your skin tone doesn't really matter that much. You were born with it. That's pretty much it. Obviously, there's some differences culturally with people, but that's not the same thing as your skin color. That's something we choose, kind of. I guess some people don't really. Just like how some people don't choose to become a drug addict. You know, a lot of child sexual abuse victims become drug addicts, and then a lot of predators use that against these victims. You know, you can let me just check how good we're going here. You can shit. I might have screwed up the back of this. Yeah, oh boy, I screwed up that back. It's not that bad. I can fix it, hopefully. Oh yeah, no, I'm lining this up the wrong place. Okay, now we're good. So I always line up the front of my eye with the front of the handle, because I don't want to come too deep in here. I don't want to come deep at all. I want the whole front of the handle to line up and then swoop down if it's curved. And so what I'll do is I'll take some of this back off. Back to victims and predators. The predator, and this is like the Jeffrey Epstein MO and the Ghislaine Maxwell MO. I'm not going to say her name right. She's a Ghislaine. They will discredit a victim, because this victim will not only become a user of drugs, but they will sometimes have severe mental illness. And because of that, they'll be discredited, and their claims will be discredited. It's very sad stuff. And so, you know, someone like that, you're going to try to cheer that kind of person up with what are you grateful for? It's a much more complicated thing than that. I think that, you know, when things are so bad, you have to have a mental change your own. Now, maybe you can help change their attitude in general, but, you know, I'm not going to try to tell someone, hey, why don't you just be happy for what you have? Like, what they had was such a terrible time that they now have dissociative identity disorder. So I'm not going to, if you don't know what that is, that used to be called multiple personality disorder. And it was discredited by this organization called the False Memory Foundation, I think. And apparently those were a bunch of not so good people. So, yeah, we're looking good actually here. Actually, let me just see what kind of rounding I got to do on the back. Okay, so keep the thickness, but round it a little bit. Not really sure how I'm going to do that. Usually you trace the lines and it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I just, someone told me I was like looking up, I was trying to do research on high risk nuclear power sites. I get really interested in things and I got to know. I'm not just going to stop halfway. I'm going to find out exactly what I want to know, or I'm going to be disappointed after like 40 minutes of looking, or however long I give it. I looked up high risk nuclear power sites, and there are a lot. There are a lot. And one of the reasons why I was looking up high risk power sites, nuclear power sites, is because of my belief about nuclear power. A lot of people will try to say it's really good, it's cheap energy, it's the best we got. And I understand there's a huge issue with peak oil. And there is an issue when it comes to creating power effectively. And it doesn't cost more to take a barrel out of the ground than it does I don't know if I said that right, but if you don't know what peak oil is, it's basically it costs more to take oil out of the ground than to leave it in the ground. Something like that. I might have mixed up, but yeah, that's a strange situation. What happens after that? The oil industry gets subsidized severely. I'm sure it already is to some extent. So I was looking up these power plants because of my thought about nuclear power not being safe. Not because we've had Chernobyl, or the globe has had the Chernobyl incident, or 3 Mile Island, or the Fukushima. That was a really bad one, but Chernobyl is the worst one, I believe, so far. It's because of our leadership. I mean, we've seen it throughout the world. It happened in even Japan, which is supposed to be a very meticulous place. What do I got to do here? Just a little more off the back. I believe that our leadership is just not good enough to make sure that things go smoothly forever. So these high-risk nuclear sites are usually decommissioned or semi-decommissioned, and they're either trying to figure it out, or it's getting dealt with slowly. But really, the big problem is they put these places so you need water to cool down these fuel pools, or whatever they're called. These pools that they cool down the fuel in, and so they put these nuclear power sites, or they have in the past, and this is what happened at Fukushima. They put them on the water, which is a huge flood risk. And if you look up your area, if you're near the coast, you might have realized now that you're near a huge risk area, a high risk area in the future. So in the next 20 years, if nothing is done for a lot of these sites, there might very well be a nuclear meltdown. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what I'm talking about too much. But I'm pretty confident in the fact that there's negligence throughout the country. There's not accountability. Now, we do have a little bit better checks and balances than the Soviet Union, of course. But who knows if that continues? Or who knows if something drastic happens, And so this person said about that, hey, you think you get in these negative things. And it's like, okay, I get in these negative things, but someone's got to think about this shit. I'm sure there are many people that do. But are there regular people thinking about this enough? Because the only way things get really solved when there's not enough attention is attention. So it's just something I want to talk to people about that are sad. I think the best way to talk to sad people is to tell them about, hey, if you're sad, just remember, you might get cancer from an isotope. You guys know about radioactive isotopes? So they have these half-lives, which means So let's say the half-life is 10 years. Every 10 years, the radioactive energy that's exuding from it, I don't know the terminology, it halves. So and when it has a short half-life, I think it's pretty powerful, but it dissipates quickly. And when it has a long half-life, it's kind of just there forever, but it's not super powerful. But that doesn't mean that it can't affect us or our environment. I'm not up on that, so don't take my word on that one. But definitely take my word on the fact that there are high-risk nuclear power plants that nobody really is talking about it in the conversation that nuclear power is this great thing. Do you really trust our leadership to just manage all this stuff perfectly? Like, look at how the monetary system look at how the monetary system goes. Our money is worth like half it was just like 30 years ago. Not half. I think it's like, no, actually, it almost is, I think. I think it's like 5 cents now was worth 9 cents in the early 2000s. I think. Don't quote me on that. Which is horrific inflation. People like to talk about capitalism, but in general, a monetary system that's run by a centralized bank and people that depend on credit and loans and all this bullshit, all this fake fucking money, I think that's just what happens. And like we're supposed to be used to every 40 years, and this is the reason why a lot of people are sad. Every fucking, little bit, there's a market crash, and people are severely affected. And guess what happens to the people that aren't? A lot of the people that have a lot of money already, they just go, oh, let me buy up the stuff that you don't have. Like during World War II, actually, whatever currency is still worth money, people will take that currency and buy the things that are being sold off, for pennies on the dollar because there's a fucking war happening. There's just a lot of things that go on in the world. And, if you get sad enough, you start thinking about them. And, I think there's something to us being sad. I think we should be fucking sad. I think it'd be weird if people weren't sad every now and then. Now, I don't want you to be stuck on sad. You got to live your life. But, when there's like a handful of genocides at any given time, there's a handful of genocides. That's wild, and nobody really talks about that. All right, so we're looking good. We're going really slow here. Probably because I'm talking about nuclear power and genocides. How close are we? All right, so we still got a little bit to remove in the back. I always remove material from the back first. Back of the eye, back of the tongue first. That's the best practice, I think. That was a lot of material I just removed. It's kind of okay to remove a lot because look at this diagonal. But the thing is, you do want to keep material so you can fill the whole eye with front to back. Now you can get away with filling a little with a wedge, but just in general, be more careful than I am right now. I'm just making this even. All right, let's see. It's going to look really goofy. By the way, I'll show you guys this cool axe head. All right, so let's take the corners off this. We're pretty close. Let me just see. So I'm just eyeing it up to see if I can get this right. We'll go to the spoke shave. I don't know if I've really talked about this spoke shave. It's a W.H. Reed wooden spoke shave, and I've never seen anybody explicitly say this for some reason, but when it has two adjustments, the way that you use this, at least this is how this one works, is one has to be up and the other one has to be down, so this kind of locks, like it tightens so much because of the difference, the diagonal, that it kind of locks. And so it's this side is up and this side is down all the way. So if I cheat if I cheat towards this side, there'll be less of a shaving. If I cheat towards this side, it'll be a very large shaving, just because this side is open, this side is closed. I tend to cheat towards the open side. So I think one of the best tools you can have for the back of a tongue is a spoke shave. Really nice tool. Makes you look better than you are at shaping wood, to be honest. All right. Now it looks like an eye. Look at that. Or now it looks like a tongue that will fit an eye. So let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, we are close. Let me just see how off I am. Oh wow, that's nearly straight on. Okay. So I gotta remove material from here. Want to be really careful. Don't want to remove too much. The removal of material that makes this part too fat can be after you know that you don't need it. You know, you already verify that you have all the material you need. And you just want the part below the bottom of the eye of the axe, you just want it to be slightly thinner than the axe. At least, you know, to a point. You don't want you want it to be thicker to, like, you know, to wherever you're going to stop hanging the head. Maybe if you recorrect it and you put maybe the shoulder goes to like here when I'm done. So everything below this point thinner than the axe, but above it you want it to be slightly thicker, just so you can and that's just the hole. You always want everything below the axe head to be thinner than the hole, than the cheeks. So from here to here, or here, I mean to here, thickness-wise, you want that to be thicker than the handle, because it'll protect the handle from abrasion and dents. It's not a perfect thing, but it'll help. I gotta fix these. That happens here. Soft jaws. Okay, now let's take a look at this. Ooh, that's not too good, actually. We're a little funky here, guys. We got a lot of material extra here. Great thing about hand tools is that, unlike people think, your body can work them like a machine. So you can do some very quick work if you're skilled, or if you just know the proper technique to get it done quickly. All right, so we got, what I'm liking here is that there's very little light coming in. I want it to be tight. I don't want it to be loose. Now, one thing about the tight and loose thing is, on the sides, on the top of the tongue, on the sides, remove some material just so you can fit a fatter wedge, get that wedge to really push out. Makes it easier to fit a wedge in there anyway. So you don't have to worry about it too much on the sides. On just the top, though, you really don't want to mess with it too far down into the axe eye. Like, look how far down this goes. We'll see. Let's see. So that's where the axe stops, about right there. So you really want to only remove material above my finger right here, at least for now. Oh yeah, I got to remove some more material from this bad boy. Right here. I should have locked it in better. All right. You could probably bring out the spoke shave here. So one thing about draw knifing and using the spoke shave is you're not going to get this smooth action if it's bumpy. You know, if you're doing cuts with a hatchet on this handle, you're going to have to pare those down carefully and then kind of get on the same growth ring almost eventually, and make it smooth, and then it will cut continuously until the end of your cut. see if I could unravel this. So that's not a big cut, but you can see that's the length of where I was cutting because this is smooth. So what I'm seeing right here is this right here is very thick, but I can always deal with that later, or I'm going to have to deal with it eventually. So what I see when I look at the back, I see that there's a little less material right here than I would like, but this is probably going to come off, and that's good because I see a little crack. But look at this. That won't matter at all because of this angle, this severe angle. I only need about this much wood anyway, so it's actually perfect. Let's just take it off now. I'll show you. The draw knife can be used in some funky ways. Now I want to be really careful now because I brought down a good amount of wood. Show you how much less goofy it looks just with a little bit of work. Now what I would do is I would kind of round this over, and the spoke shave or rasp is pretty good for this part. And you can't go up this, you can't go up this part. So what you do is you go like this, you go down. That's how I like to kind of round. Oh, wow. So that was actually what just chipped out was the crack. All right. Still got a little bit of tear out there. Now look at it. And you can see I have a lot more room. I hope you can see it. So this is kind of higher than right here. So we'll take that down, but we'll be very careful. Really don't want to screw up at the, at the main event. All right, I think I did enough yapping for today. We'll end it here. It's 30 minutes of talking about death and destruction and shaping an axe handle tongue. It's funny, I didn't get much done, but this is what makes me feel good, Just getting into something that's meditative, and that's working wood with hand tools. It just feels good. Some people probably like the power tools because you can't even hear your thoughts. Well, that's not true. I could still hear my thoughts when there's a huge noise going on, but maybe they're the loud noise maybe distracts you from your own thoughts, and maybe they like that. But I do get lost in this sometimes, or I'll get lost in thought while I'm doing this mindlessly, and that could be nice too. Thanks for watching. All right. Let's give this a chop, guys. I'm loving this, guys. I am loving it. I'm questioning if I should put the microphone down. You guys okay with listening to my Tony Soprano breath? My nose breathe and my mouth and nose breathing like Tony? Whoops. I'm going to try to take it easy. A lot of the times when I'm using a tool, I just can't help myself. I throw it harder than I need to. I hold it harder than I need to. I know Bill Burr has a joke about that. some guy having like a death grip on an airplane so he doesn't fall off or something. I don't remember, but probably in my prior life, I had a death grip on an airplane. Oh, that was tough. Oh, it's getting hard. Now it's getting ash. So the outside of this was soft because it was in the dark. It was in the dirt. But the inside, no, that's what I was expecting. You could hear the sound difference. Yeah, let's take it easy. I'm just trying to swing the axe efficiently. Let's put the mic down. That's some pretty ash. Huh. Deflecting. It's because of this. This notch is too narrow. I could open it up, and I should. I'm almost halfway though. I knew it was too narrow of a notch. I wanted to get away with it though. You guys want to see me make a board? Instead of finishing the cut. Well, actually, let's think about it. Don't matter how clean your notch is if it's not wide enough. If I had more timber, I could, take some off the side, but figured I'd try something else because I can flip it. Really, it's cheating though. Further. I just did the same thing. Fuck. It's just not long enough. This is 28, 27. That one's 22. Just not long enough. A little sticky too. Oh yeah, much better. Wow. time. Let's embarrass myself with the diameter. Thirteen and a quarter. So bigger than pulpwood. It's ash. It's oblong. That kind of makes it a little annoying. Normally if you're doing something like this and it's one big piece, you'd have to just widen the notch like crazy, or dig in to what's already cut. All right, let's get this done. We're pretty close. I'm a little worried about this area right here. It's a high spot. Oh, that hurt. I didn't notice this blister until the end. Started hurting a little, but not too bad. That's actually one of the first blisters I've had in a while. You could chalk that up as not chopping enough maybe, or that handle's a little thicker than my normal handles. That's actually pin oak it's pin oak with a Kentucky pattern, unbranded.